What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another chance encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house. It's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Charles Seaman. How are you doing today, Charles?
Dan, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
Awesome. Awesome. I'm great, especially because my very favorite audience member is here today. And why is my favorite audience member here today, Charles? Well, it's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate syndicators. That means investors, buyers, sellers, stuff like that. And why would I do such a silly thing? Well, I'm aware of the fact that there's such a thing as a 506B deal, which is a private syndication. And if you want access to those private deals, you need to have a documented prior substantive relationship. And that's what we're up to here. You need to have that so that if the SEC audits you, then you've got it all buttoned up for them. But what we do on this show is we talk about buy boxes, everything you really need to know to figure out if there's overlap between your business and my guests. And in the meantime, you also learn how to communicate effectively on the subject of commercial real estate. Isn't that fun? But before we get too excited about your business, Charles, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself?
Sure. Well, for everybody who's not familiar with me, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. The accent may not give it away. Been in Charlotte, North Carolina for about 4 years now. And like I'm sure many other guests on the show, I focus on multifamily.
Excellent,
It's a great
excellent.
asset, and we're always looking for more of it.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so now I got to go all the way back. Oh, okay, I should have hit stop. Okay, but anyway, so the first segment that we do is the 5 distinct motivations for doing these deals. Before I say that, I got to say, but wait, check your 8. Charles, I don't know if you can see through the camera and oh, sorry, this camera, through the camera and then into the user's device, but down there around the 7 o'clock, there might be this awful red subscribe button in the audience's device, and they should really do something. Okay, no, that's just a stupid
They,
joke I always
they,
do.
they should click subscribe, and they should make sure they do.
Exactly, exactly. It's free, costs nothing. But
Right.
let's start providing some value. I've met a whole whack of investors in commercial real estate, and everybody has their own unique why. But I found that I can put them into 5 different categories. And so every episode, I go through all 5 of them to make sure that you understand why my guest is going to follow through with these acquisitions. The first one is preservation of purchasing power. What on earth does that mean? It means some people are out there and they already have a portfolio of assets, and that the way that they make ends meat is from the profits that come from ownership. And if that's the case, the only time you're going to make a new acquisition is either if inflation is eating away at the cash value, the purchasing power of your cash, or if you can buy at a steep discount, like when there's an asset crash or something like that. That's not really my thing. My thing is, because I come from tech, I'm looking to trade time directly for wealth instead of salary or wages. So being from tech, specifically the CRM industry, so that's mass emailing. I used to send 5 million emails a month for my old boss, and that was for years on end. And really, it's the e-commerce side of CRM, so it's accepting credit card transactions in the web applications, blah, 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 blah. But the problem, again, if you're earning high salary or high wages, is you're paying more tax than anybody else. So it hit me, how can I pivot so that, like my boss, I'm getting rewarded in the form of deployed capital, aka equity. So that's what I'm up to. But a lot of people are attracted to commercial real estate because they see, big numbers floating around, and their real motivation is to take control over their schedule. Maybe that means they want to fast track their retirement, or maybe it just means that they eventually want to work fewer months per year, fewer weeks per month, or something like that. But that's in stark contrast with the next group, They are so ambitious. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want that generational wealth. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that's why they're involved in this. So they're going to keep hustling into their 90s. So it's very different from the previous one. But the last motivation, some people, they're also going to hustle into their 90s, but it's a function of how they've picked a sector of society, or maybe it's animals, or maybe it's the environment, who knows what it is, but they've decided that you need a very substantial financial backing if you're going to have a really big impact, and that's why they're making these acquisitions. So Charles, of those 5 different motivations, what stood out to you? What combination of them would you say describes you best?
Well, it's a great question, Dan. So there's a lot of good motivations there. My personal one would be I want to buy my hometown. And part of it's because, I guess I've always envisioned myself in that way. And somehow as a kid, I knew I'd become successful. I didn't know how, I didn't know what the path would be. But I said, somehow I'm going to be successful. And for 14 years, I worked in Midtown Manhattan. And I said, someday I'm going to buy the Empire State Building. And it was just kind of a goal. But admittedly, the world's changed. I don't know if I want a 100-story office building anymore, even though it is kind of a cool thing to say, but, maybe not so cool to own. And then the second one would be helping people who need it. So that would be my second motivation.
I love it. I love it. I remember my mentor, he was back in 2020, he was going on about how the Chrysler building got sold for like $186 million. And it was like the previous one was in the billions. And it like they just took a bath on it. And that's how he put it. He said, like, if you own the Chrysler building, you can sit at any table you want.
Right.
It's a pretty fantastic goal, but there are risks involved in commercial real estate. I like to say that real estate is the world's second oldest profession. And so as a result, people have to really be clear that, it's not all rainbows and fluffy pillows and all that kind of stuff. And if you've ever invested in a 506B syndication, you've had to do a questionnaire with a bunch of questions, really invasive questions about your finances. But there was one question that I didn't like, which was the one asking about risk, because I didn't really feel like if I had that answer, I'd actually know for sure that the person knows what they're talking about. So I have a fill in the blank question to answer that. So Charles, there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. What's too risky for you, Charles? You already mentioned office space, but...
Well, admittedly, I probably still have somewhat of a sore spot for office space, but I was going to jokingly say fine wine and collectible art. Now, those are some interesting asset classes. They probably are risky, but they're risky to me because I don't know anything about them. On a more serious note, I'd probably say cryptocurrency. And while I do think there is a lot of potential with cryptocurrency, I think that potential lies in speculation more than actual value. So I think people who are going out there and thinking that they're getting something of tangible value are going to be greatly disappointed.
I love it. I love it. That's a great answer. And yeah, there's the little reminder that everybody should subscribe. That thing just kills me, man. But anyway, back to commercial real estate, back to reality. In every episode of Chance Encounters, I pull out the Dan Does Deals core competency cube with the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. And if you want your own copy, you can go to dandoesdeals.com. It's absolutely free. And like a complete dummy, I don't even ask for your email address, which is the worst thing you can do from a marketing perspective. You should always ask for contact information in return for your freebie, but I don't do that because I want to make sure that you have nothing in your way from downloading it, printing it out, and then you can practice explaining these different sides. Because if there's one thing that I think will dictate your success in commercial real estate, it's being able to express yourself and communicate effectively. So in every episode, I take a couple minutes and I go through all 6 sides of the die, and then that way you know how my guest fits into these deals. But I start off with repositioners. Repositioners are acquisitions people. They're looking at a bunch of different properties and they're doing a bunch of paperwork. What are they doing with that paperwork, you may ask? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They are underwriting the deal. It means they're doing the math. They're doing the arithmetic. They're figuring out, is this property even actually making the amount of money that the seller or broker claims it is? Are they doing some funny things with the numbers? Because you got to know that. But they're called repositioners. I call them repositioners because they're more than just investors. They are figuring out how can they change the property to find more upside than what's in place already. And the first place, every repositioner has some investor relations and financier relations with the banks and whatnot. So the financiers are people who only deal with paper and with money, so they are not on the GP team. Their whole role is to deal with money, and the reason why they have to be in the fold is because if the repositioner can secure a more advantageous loan, that goes straight to the bottom line. Okay, that's straight profitability just because it's a cheaper loan. So that's why everybody's doing that. But the next place where the repositioner is going to make some changes are going to be to the operations. They're going to stop those Benjamins from going down those toilets. And of course, there's a lot more to operations than just unclogging toilets and collecting rent and mowing lawns and all that kind of fun stuff. Me personally, because of my marketing background and also the tech and automation side, that's where I really come in. Is like with marketing, it has to do with keeping the vacancy rate in favorable. And even if you have I like to focus on 100 units or more, and then that way you end up outsourcing the operations to a third party. But if they can't fill the place, you better have some great marketing chops to compensate for it. So that's what I'm bringing to the table for the most part with my teams. But operations is probably not going to be enough for the repositioner to make it really, really profitable. So the next place they look is the contractor team. They get a team in there to do renovations, to do a value add, fix the place up. And the idea being that the next resident will be happy to pay more in rent than the previous one because it's nicer. But it's an expensive and dangerous proposition doing too much construction because it has to ROI, and somebody has to keep an eye on them, especially if you're like me. See, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm from the internet, which means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, because that categorically will not be me. I would still be stuck at an airport in an hour or two, so I'm not going to be the local. But once this team is assembled and they got the deal in mind, they turn around to the financier and say, hey, we got this property. Let's say it's 350 units and it's tens of millions of dollars. So they turn around to the financiers and say, hey, you happen to get tens of millions of dollars. You want to lend us for this? And of course, the financiers are going to have some other questions on their mind, even more than you probably. And the biggest one is, who is the sponsor KP? Who is going to be sponsoring the deal, and what's that all about? So let's say you've got some well-off friends and you want to pool your resources to take over a commercial property. Where the plan's going to fall apart is the commercial loan. To be eligible for a commercial loan, you have to have somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. Okay, or else the answer is just plain no. On top of that, you also need a certain amount of liquidity, and then among the owners, you need a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Charles, as far as you and your organization goes, which sides of the die do you guys take care of?
For the record, I actually just went on Dan's website and downloaded that because that thing is pretty cool. So you guys should all do the same. But it would be a combination of sponsor, repositioner, and operations.
All right, beautiful, easy. So then we'll get even more detail then by doing the buy box. So when syndicators are asking each other, hey, what you looking for? What's your ideal property? There's really three main things. First one's geography. So that's which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhoods. Okay, it's definitely going to matter. So location's the first one. Second one is the size. We're primarily talking about multifamily on these chance encounters. So the way that they count size is by unit count. And the reason for that is because the teams that are taking over 15 unit deals are going to be completely different from the ones that are taking down 150 unit deals and up. So you need to know that size. Now the third one, it's called class. And people tend to use the word class for two different things. I like to separate them out. The first meaning of class is condition. So how old is the building? How beat up is the building? How luxurious is the property? Okay, so does it have a bunch of amenities or is it basically no frills? That's the condition. That's the first meaning of class. The second meaning is area. And what they're really getting at is what's the crime rate like where this property is located? What are the school districts like? How much traffic goes by that area? But both the area and the condition, those two versions of class, the way that they rate them is the same way as in grade school, with A plus at the top and then A and then A minus and then B plus. So Charles, as far as properties that are easier for you guys to say yes to and more difficult to say no to, what you looking for?
Well, the buy box certainly changes as you evolve. So in the past, it would have been different than what it is now. But now we focus primarily on the Southeast. That part's kind of the same as it's been. And we like the Carolinas, we like Georgia, we like Florida, Tennessee, Virginia. Those are our main markets. And we really focus on properties that are 100 units or more and $10 million or larger in price. And we'll look at A, B, and C assets. So in the past, we've been most competitive on C stuff, so that's what we're really focused on. But we'd like to start mixing in some A and B stuff and gradually work up to a nicer class of property.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. So the next question then, it has to do with who is best suited to reach out to you. I absolutely love commercial real estate because it's multifaceted and people are really eager to give referrals, build new teams. But even though we are highly motivated to help each other, we're still better suited to help some people more than others. With my marketing background and tech background, I find that the sponsor KPs are people who I can disproportionately help, and then the other one is locals because of course I'm the internet guy. But as far as you're concerned, Charles, I don't know if you do 506B or only 506C or what the story is, but if you have 506B deals, you're not supposed to be enticing investors, so don't wave donuts in
Right.
front of the camera. That would be bad.
That
But
would
who's out there who's just perfect to reach out to you?
so the perfect one for us would be the financier.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is we're looking to do a lot of deals this year. So we want to have plenty of relationships that we can go to.
Hmm.
And the more deals you do and the bigger the deals get, the more financial needs you have.
Definitely, definitely. Excellent. So then the next question has to do with how to reach out then. And I got this super distinct last name, so I'm really easy to find. LinkedIn is the best platform to find me because I'm there all the time. But if you scan this QR code with your phone, that takes you to the FAQs page of 506 Beame, which is the platform where I offer all the IT to make sure that you've got that documentation of your substantive prior relationships with all your investors. So one of the issues you're going to run into is if you get enough assets under management, the SEC will audit you, and so you got to make sure that you have proof that you knew the people who you work with. But Charles, if people want to reach out to you, I see you got your QR code on your screen as well. What are the best ways to reach out?
Sure. So the best way is Linktree /Charles_Seaman. And I'll give you that so you can put it with the show notes also.
All right. Perfect. 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 Then the last question, then it's actually not for you, Charles. It's for you in the audience. It's actually not a question. It's a public service announcement, which is if you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine-like symptoms, I think it's probably the hideous red subscribe button right there. And if you just click on it, it turns into the gray one. It looks really great. You should see it. But of course, full disclosure, the reason I want you to click on it is because if enough people do, then YouTube will actually start paying for these videos instead of me. I think that'd be amazing. And as far as you're concerned, it doesn't cost you anything. All it really means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can go ahead and ignore those suggestions. I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Charles, I appreciate you joining me today. This is really great getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thanks. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay, are you already logged into 506BME?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506 Beamy, everybody.